everybody. My name is Allan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, people who've seen the show before, we talk about dedicated to the oneness, that experience of truth that transcends all the differences we see in this world. And, you know, as I was on my way here today, I was thinking, how many of us are on fire to know that experience? How many of us have our lives directed by that desire to know and that knowing? And it seems to me that that has to come into our lives more and more, that hunger for that knowledge, that connection to the one, that connection to truth, what we call God generally, has to be the centerpiece of our lives, has to be the motivating force. And when that starts to happen in our lives, the joy and the love and the joy of living really becomes part and parcel of that manifestation. And tonight's guest, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, the one thing I haven't seen him in person at his church, but I have heard tapes, and Michael Beckwith is on fire. He's on fire to know the truth. He's on fire to share that truth, and that brings an energy and a passion into his life and into all those lives he touches. And it's just an extraordinary thing, and we're honored to have Michael with us tonight. He's the founding senior minister of the Agape International Center of Truth, which is the largest, or one of the largest, but maybe even the largest multicultural, multiracial, trans-denominational spiritual community in the world. And their central dedication is to the realization of the presence of God, of peace and love everywhere, all around the globe. And that's what he dedicates his life to, day in and day out. And that center, the Agape Center, is just, I don't know if it's, I guess it's world renowned, but I know in this area, we film in Santa Barbara, in the California area, it's just renowned as just a blissful place where anyone can come and they're welcomed. If they come with a humble, open heart, they're welcomed by everyone there in true love and true devotion. So we're just honored to have Michael with us this evening. And we've gotten a lot of calls, and we wanted to get Lessia back to sing some of the songs from the CD she and I wrote, Lessia Bridging Heaven and Earth, but at the last minute she couldn't come. So what we've done is we have two videos. One's with a slideshow of Walter Mathison, an old friend of the show, and then another one is one of the songs, All the Same Loves, that she did on a previous show. So again, settle in, let this next hour or so bring you into that experience, light that fire, fan those flames, and let that love of Michael, of Lessia, come into your life and overtake us all. So please, as we normally do at this time, to settle into that experience, join me in a short meditation. If you don't know how to meditate, just settle in, relax, and then we're going to be back with some songs from Lessia, and Michael's going to be with us. So please join me for a short meditation. Thank you. So we're going to begin tonight's show with the first video of Lessia's music. It's called Heaven and Earth, the song. It's presented with a slideshow by Walter Mathison. The song Heaven and Earth was written by Lessia and myself, and it's on the new CD, Lessia Bridging Heaven and Earth. So, and you know, Lessia is going to be singing it. So, Heaven and Earth. Hi. Let me just say that was all the same love, and that was supposed to be the second cut, but we're going to do Heaven and Earth later. I guess I got them mixed up. So we're on the set with Michael. Hi, Michael.
How are you?
Good. So tell me, when and how did you catch fire?
20-something years ago. I don't remember exactly how many years ago, but I was at USC. I was a psychobiology major, going to school, kind of on the wild side, at the same time going to school. And I began to have a series of inner experiences, inner awakenings, in which at that time was considered pathology. And it ended up being a tremendous opening of my heart, opening of my awareness that we're surrounded by the presence of God, that it's everywhere, it's in everything. It is our very life. There's nothing else that exists.
Right.
It's conscious of itself, and that we're its emanations. And that was the short version, what I just shared with you.
Right.
But it's about 25 years ago, and something happened in which I actually...
Was there any trigger for that, or you were just walking down the campus one day? I mean...
There was a couple of things going on. One, I was extremely disillusioned by the world of affairs. And I was semi-revolutionary. I was going to change the world by any means necessary. And one day I was part of an organization that was very revolutionary in nature. And I remember looking around the room, and I said to myself, if we were to take over the world tomorrow,
would I want these people to run it any better than the other dopes?
Would it be any different? And an answer said no. I looked around, there was power struggles going on, ego.
Right.
And so, but I didn't have anything to replace that with.
Right.
So I went back to school.
Right.
I said, we can't beat them, join them. So
Right.
I went back to school, and I began to have a series of dreams in which every night these three men were chasing me.
Wow.
But I'd always wake up in time before they caught me.
And they weren't the three wise men.
No, they seemed to be very dangerous guys.
Right, it wasn't as benign as that.
I was waking up, and at the same time, I was leaving my body all the time. I'd be watching television. Suddenly, I'd be on the ceiling looking at myself. I would think about somebody, like my mother. I'd be in her kitchen watching her cook dinner. But because I hadn't studied any of that stuff, I thought I was going crazy.
Right.
And so I didn't dare share any of this with the psychology teachers at school. But anyway, the dream culminated one night, and I decided I wasn't going to run anymore. I said, this is a dream, what could possibly happen? And I stopped. And I turned around, and there was this...
You remember that consciously thinking in the dream that I'm going to stop, and whatever happens, happens.
Whatever happens, happens.
Right, I'm ready
I was lucid, I was conscious, I was awake, but I knew I was in this dream.
Right.
And I looked around, and there was this very small tent with a long line of people trying to get in it. Thousands of people. And I knew every one of these people. And so I started screaming to them for help. And one by one, they turned their back on me. Two of the men held me down, and one of the men plunged a knife in my heart. And I screamed. It was extremely painful, and I died. And when I woke up, I could see that we were surrounded by this presence of God, this presence of divine love. It was everywhere. And any sense of anxiety or nervousness about anything had just dissolved.
It takes a lot of fear away.
It was gone.
Right.
And ever since then, for many years, I was trying to discover what had happened to me. So I was on fire with trying to discover what had gone on. So I studied the Eastern religions, Eastern mysticism, Western mysticism.
Just to try to bring reason to this unreasonable experience.
What had happened?
Right.
You know, exactly. Where did the fear go? Where did the doubt go? Where did the worry go? What had happened to me? I would pick up metaphysical books, and I would know what was in the next page before I read it. So there was like a memory that was being activated. And so I did a lot of studying, a lot of praying, a lot of meditating. And the fire and the hunger that was 25 years ago is still here today.
Absolutely.
There's no diminishment of that same kind of zest and quest to be more myself, to be more awake, more alive, more aware, more of service.
Because it's born again. It's every moment, not in that religious traditional sense, but in that consciousness
the real
sense.
Spiritual sense that you're becoming yourself. You're awakening to the possibilities.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're never anything but that, but your recognition of that is
recognition of it is the key word. Absolutely.
So then your whole life was in follow. In other words, you had experienced the top of the mountain. Then it was, how do I walk there and know it?
It was about integration and embodiment. I had a lot of experiences of moving into the light and being taught and being aware. But it was like my heart. I was in heaven, but my feet weren't always on the ground.
I understand.
You see, so I had to integrate that awareness into my daily life.
Be in this world, but not of this
Be
world.
absolutely in it.
Right.
And so it took a number of years to just integrate
I would say.
That kind of awareness.
Right.
And even now, as I'm speaking, as I speak and go around the country and speak, I'm still integrating, still becoming more myself. At that particular time, not only was I going to school, but I was hustling in the streets. I was doing wild stuff, and I got arrested at that time for selling marijuana. And so here I am in court. I think they arrested me with about 100 pounds. I had a lot of friends.
I was going to say, you're a heavy smoker.
And had a nice network. And I got arrested on my last dope deal.
Really?
The very last one, because I knew this was not me.
But somebody wanted to put a period on that, wasn't you?
Robert Shapiro.
Very short.
Robert Shapiro was my attorney.
Really? The one with
Absolutely.
O.J. Simpson?
Robert Shapiro and Harry Weiss.
Wow.
And the voice had already told me that
This
nothing
was not for your life.
Nothing.
Right.
And so as I was sitting in court week after week, I was reading books on meditation. Bhagwan, right at that time, Bhagwan had one book,
right.
Chaotic Meditation or something.
Right.
I was reading a lot of books on meditation. I was totally unconcerned about the trial because the inner voice had already told me that was my past.
Cool. Right. Yeah.
So people thought I'd freaked out.
This man's really looked his mind reading books.
He's still going to school. You should leave the country.
50 years.
Right. The feds want you after the state. What are you doing? Right. I said, that's over. That's not me. Right. That guy died.
Right.
And so they thought I had freaked. And then one day in court, Robert Shapiro was interviewing a motorcycle officer. And he asked the motorcycle officer, why did he go to this particular house? He said, well, the informant indicated that there's going to be a dope deal going down. And he said, that's hearsay evidence. We demand that the informant come, or that we ask that the case be dismissed. And they met in the judge's chambers 2 or 3 days. Third day, the judge, we called us back and said, Mr. Beckwith, you're dismissed. The informant is afraid for his life and will not show up. Please do not show up in my courtroom again. I said, Judge, I'll never see you again. I walked out of there as the inner voice had told me I would. I went home, and it was an extremely windy day. And I was standing in front of my house. In my neighbor's house, there was a weather vane on top of the house. And the weather vane was pointing in the direction of the wind. The wind was blowing. And I said, God, I believe. Heal my unbelief. Make that weather vane point in my direction against the wind. And before I could get the words out of my mouth, the weather vane pointed at my direction.
Wow.
And I began to cry.
Wow.
And I just totally surrendered my life to working for God, to being the presence that I'm supposed to be.
To the level of your capacity
at that time. Just surrendered. And every day, it's a day-by-day process of giving up that which isn't real for that which is real. And as I indicated, from that moment to this moment, the fire has not diminished. I still wake up with that same passion, that same awareness, that same movement into life.
Absolutely.
And it's, so much joy is there.
So, the manifestation's so beautiful, and we're so fortunate to have human bodies able to manifest that love.
Absolutely. This is, I call this the light bulb. And, the energy flows through so that we can glow with God. And that's a high form of prayer, to glow with the Spirit. And then that's what we're here to do. And
have fun together and collaborate.
Fun,
and work,
joy,
play, whatever you want to call it.
Joy, fun, creativity, spontaneous goodness, work play, I use that word a lot, total expression of ourselves, whatever word you want to put in there.
Exactly.
There's no inhibition to it.
And no fear.
But what we put on ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. Fear is, if we're caught up in fear, it simply means that somewhere along the line we've caught up in the belief that we're separate and autonomous from the power, from the presence.
Yeah, we feel separate somehow.
And so we seek to do things from that paradigm rather than to be still and to know that I am God in the midst of us. It's a very wonderful way of being. And you did the key at the beginning with the meditation. To just be still and to pull away from the world as our physical senses tell us it is, and to get a real awareness.
An experience.
Yeah.
Rub up against the infinite enough and you realize that's what you are.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm talking about this week. I'm saying that faith is a contact sport. When you make contact, you come into that faith knowledge and
or else it's an idea, and then the idea won't carry you. In the plane.
You can't get into heaven on a concept.
Exactly.
You can't have joy on a concept. You can't have everlasting peace on a concept. You have to really taste it. The sweet nectar has to roll down your throat. You have to experience it. You have to know it. And once you do, then it just keeps pulling you back. You know,
Right.
you hunger. There comes a time where you're just pulled into
The
meditation.
momentum is stronger in that direction
Right.
than stronger than mind or
Inertia of the
disease,
past,
right.
disease, fear. You just
disharmony.
right, and then you walk in it.
Right.
And a lot of people would teach that, you know, it takes thousands of years to do this, but with a sufficient degree of hunger and thirst,
Absolutely. I know exactly what
the
you mean.
contact will change you forever.
Absolutely. The one contact.
That
that's all-
contact would
right.
change you forever.
Yeah, the example I use is that it's like going towards one of those doors at the supermarket. You know, you crawl, but you get to a certain place and the door opens.
It
You know,
opens.
you got to that grate where, you know.
Right, swings open, and it's
Right,
always,
swings
interestingly enough, the door is always open.
That's right.
We
it
think
looks
it's closed.
like it, right.
Yeah, from a certain perception, it looks like it's closed, and you get there, it's been open all the time.
Right.
And what are you waiting for? Here am I.
You are that.
Yeah, that's it.
So from that point, the evolution, and how did it evolve into, you know, the Agape Center? How did that work out?
I never consciously wanted to be a minister. That's something, because of my stereotypical idea, concept of what ministers were, I never saw myself in that field. I just knew that I loved God. I loved the presence of God, and I loved people. You know, people are the presence of God manifesting here on earth. And so my studies led me to the Church of Religious Science, in which I always remember the first day I walked into one of the churches. It was the Guidance Church of Religious Science. And the minister, Dr. Dan, was saying there's no such place as heaven and hell. It's a state of consciousness. And I was coming in a little late. And I said, he's right. That's true. And everyone turned around and looked at me.
There's a troublemaker here, right? He's busted in.
Right. And so I stopped there for a while and realized that what they had there was a wonderful correlation between Eastern and Western mysticism, explained in a very Western way, but it was still had all the mystical base there. And I began to take classes there. And one thing led to another, and I became a practitioner, which is a spiritual therapist that deals primarily with the modality of prayer. And I did that for 7 years. Again, I was not interested in going into the ministry per se. I loved my weekends free. I loved my lifestyle. I saw clients every day. I did
Right.
workshops, seminars, that type of thing. And after a while, the calling to express more was there. And I'll always remember I used to have this chronic crook in my neck, that my neck would get so stiff I'd have to go to a chiropractor and massage therapist, but it would always come back. And I remember the day I gave in and said, okay, I'll start my own work. On that day, my neck went pop, and the energy just started flowing.
You were a pain in your own neck.
I was a pain in my own neck. I was resisting the flow of life,
Right.
and I was just trying to have my own will on what I should do with what I knew. But once I gave that up and allowed...
Yeah, let go. Let
just
go into it.
Absolutely. I started a vision group, individuals who always said to me along the line, if you ever start something, we'll be there. If you ever do anything, please call me. But I would always say, I'm not going to do anything, but what I'm doing now, I'm happy. I gave people a call. I had a group about 18, 19 people. And I began living in my living room, working in my living room with the vision group. The idea was for us to become in consciousness the kind of spiritual community people would want to go to. So I would have them go within to envision God's idea of itself as a spiritual community. And we would begin to articulate the heart desire. And then I would send them through processes that would help us embody the vision. Because you can't have what you're not willing to become. So it wasn't about doing business plans and marketing strategies and going through the demographics. It was about becoming the thing itself, just being it. And so as we, week after week after week, for a number of months, worked with becoming the idea as a group, I got the inner signal that it was time to go public. And then began to look for a place to have the church, spiritual community, synagogue, temple, whatever you want to call it. We had our first service November the 30th, 1986.
86, yeah, I thought it.
Santa Monica Bay Women's Club had approximately 400 people there.
Wow.
And a lot of well-wishers, a lot of people to just curiosity. But when I actually went into the weekly program, 30, 40 people was what we started with, and began to grow from there. 30 became 50, became 70, became 100, became 200, became 500. We had to move out of there into this Miramar Sheraton down in Santa Monica. From there we moved to another building, then we had to get 2 more buildings, until today we're in Culver City. We have a congregation of approximately 8,000 people locally and a number of thousand around the world that come through.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that there are 7,500 members and then 12,000 friends or associates around the world who, in one way or another, support.
Those
the
are old
church.
numbers. They're probably a little bit more now, and it continues to expand. And it's never been about numbers. It's always been about quality of consciousness, service, commitment,
But the beautiful thing is that people are drawn to it.
Yes.
I mean, when love is there, and it's inclusive,
that's the word.
people are drawn to it.
Yeah, people come in and see the idea is for the individuals to have a contact with the Spirit.
And the Spirit doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a religion, it doesn't have a sex, it doesn't have any of those things that we separate out in people.
That's the Western mind breaking things down into parts. The only religion is love. God's total giving of itself everywhere in the universe, 100%.
That's what it's made of.
That's all it is.
Right. Exactly.
And so people come to have that direct activation, and then begin to develop their own inner strategies to maintain that and to live that in their life.
Do you have classes there that teach meditation and teach?
Classes, workshops, seminars, as well as the weekly programs on Sunday and on Wednesday evenings.
Where people talk about that experience and share it. In my spiritual history, there was word satsang, company of truth.
Yes.
I don't know, that's the Hindi word.
Yes,
Just
we say
the
that.
word, yeah,
sure.
right.
Absolutely. And so what happens is, even though the church is large in numbers, there's a real wonderful intimacy because people are in the classes or they're in service. They're doing some kind of service project.
Right.
Because that's one thing we teach. You heal yourself, and then you find your modality of service in the world.
I mean, you're in a physical body and you're going to do movement. If it doesn't feel like service, then what are you doing?
Right. Nothing.
Nothing.
You
wasted time.
Self-gratification or something to that effect. So through service and through classes and through celebration, concerts, workshops, the intimacy is still there.
Yeah, actually somebody was telling me, as I said at the opening, I have never been actually down there, but somebody was telling me that, when somebody comes there for the first time, they're just immediately welcomed in, and there's no separation, and just, what's your name, and just a really beautiful vibration of it, really beautiful experience.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, we have an opening ceremony at the end of the service, that is, when we have the newcomers stand up and the congregation actually surrounds them in love and embraces them on their path.
And I bet you it feels real good.
Yeah, it's a wonderful elixir.
Yes. Okay, so I guess what we'll do now is play the video that I announced the last time, which is called Heaven and Earth. It's with this Walter Mathison slideshow. It's on the new CD, Lessia Bridging Heaven and Earth. The song was written by Lessia and I, Lessia and me. I never can get that right. There's one thing. And it's performed by Lessia. So Heaven and Earth again, or for the first time, but announced.
Mathison was the sweetest kid, he knew an awful lot. Till he grew up and got busy, and then somehow he forgot the stars dancing in his head that connected all inside. His world was more wide open then, he really had it right when he knew the bridge between heaven and the magic of freedom.
Hi, we hope you like that. That's on Lessia's new CD, Lessia, Bridging Heaven and Earth. So we're back on the set with Michael. So why do we forget our childlike wonder? How does that work? How do we, come into this world just so beautiful and so open, and then we go through the
We
dance?
forget.
Yeah, right.
Well, in our particular country, in our culture, we don't necessarily have a community that keeps us aware of our vision, our purpose, our reason for being here.
Now, religion theoretically is supposed to do that, but
Not necessarily it's supposed to. It means to bind oneself back to the source.
Right.
But here, religion seems to just capitulate to the materialistic vibration in our culture. They help you fit in and become a good citizen, but they're not necessarily revolutionary in
well, if they
having-
connected, do they have the experience of the one? I mean, when the religion started, the master did.
Oh yeah, when it
throughout
first
time,
started.
right,
But
yeah.
the way it is now,
Right.
the people are trained to basically give some kind of dogma, but not necessarily to pass on the real experience of the contact, the connection with the spirit, that you know that you're divine. So what happens here, we're in a culture that's basically teaching about materialism, that your good is outside of yourself, God is separate from you, your good is somewhere in the future. One day, if you're good enough, you'll die and you'll go to some place called heaven. So we don't really have a community that's about reminding us who we are as a spiritual being. So as soon as we have human being training, it's about going to school, getting grades, to make more money, to fit in, to one day die and
Do better.
do better somewhere else. So when you look at some of the indigenous cultures, they're more in tune with Mother Earth, more in tune with nature, more in tune with the fabric of life, of love that's everywhere. And when a child comes into the world, for instance, some of the tribes, some of the nations in Ghana, the child actually channels who he or she is during the 7th month of pregnancy. And when that child is born, the community knows that their job is to remind this child what the purpose is, why they are here, and to help them flesh out their talents and their gifts. That's not necessarily what we're here, in America is about, even though America is a wonderful country. Spiritually, it's kind of dead. So we're prone to forget, unless you have very highly evolved parents, or you, through pain or through insight, stumble into a spiritual community that's about awakening your soul. And then once you get a taste of who you are as a spiritual being, once you begin to remember your destiny, remember that purpose, as we talked about earlier, you become hungry for that. Nothing else satisfies but the awareness of who and what you are as an emanation of almightiness, as an emanation of God. Most people are sleepwalking, and they're living life primarily from their 5 senses. They live in the world of appearances. They become clever with defense mechanisms and how to make it in this world. But even if they make it in this world, they carry a very inner fear that they're going to lose everything anyway, because they haven't yet opened up to the realization of who they are as a spiritual being. That hasn't happened. And they get an opportunity when they have a midlife crisis. That's the wake-up call right there, an existential crisis to come back to themselves. And every crisis has within it the potential to wake up. But we don't have to wake up through crisis.
It doesn't have to be through trauma.
It can happen through celebration.
And love.
Love, conscious hunger.
And that's what the Agape Church is trying to set up a framework to
Yes.
make that available to people.
To teach people who they are, be the vibration of that, to celebrate that, give people daily strategies through prayer, through meditation, to maintain that awareness, and to be a place of support when we do stumble, when we do fall, when we do forget, when we do make mistakes, not to beat ourselves up, to move into the realm of self-forgiveness, to come back and embrace ourselves again and keep going, to keep being aware of who we are. So the community is set up for that purpose.
How would you define compassion?
Compassion is the highest form of love because it is the understanding of the lack of understanding. So in other words, if someone is really off base and I have compassion, that means I'm having an understanding of their lack of understanding. In order for me to have that kind of compassion, I have to know that that individual is me.
And you have to know that happens in you, that you who've been so gifted with all the experience still forgets and still, you know what I mean?
Right. I have to have compassion with myself.
Right, exactly.
Right. It's a definite.
I mean, you know it from within you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So compassion is interesting. It's a word that's now becoming much more used in America. Compassion. I say that we're slowly moving
We have
from
some presidential candidates, so maybe it shouldn't be used to.
right.
The compassionate conservative who kills more people as governor
than anybody. But it's
very compassionate.
But it's the key word. It's
right. It's a very important.
It's now popular. I say that we're slowly moving from the John Wayne swagger to the Dalai Lama smile. That
would be a nice change.
Yeah, that's what's happening. So, the word like compassion, because of Mother Teresa, because of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, there's an undercurrent of people wanting to grow in that area. So it's more popular today than it was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. The idea is we don't want to make it a cliche. We want people to really get down and do their inner work.
It's interesting because cultures like the Western cultures take those kind of words and make it their own and start selling it.
Right.
They commercialize it. They
with
commercial compassion bottles.
Right, and pictures of the Dalai Lama and this type of thing without doing the work. It's called microwave consciousness.
Right, and you're not going to have the experience.
No,
so you're going to think of the word compassion, but the experience is something different.
You're not going to get there with a picture, with a poster of somebody on your wall.
It's like eating a meal from a picture. You know, you're not going to fulfill your appetite.
Right, or having a map of a country and thinking you're there. It's not going to happen. You have to do the work. You have to get down on a daily basis and examine your life. You have to meditate. You have to pray. You have to allow your life to be an avenue of service, and something happens. You literally, the dust, the grit begins to fall off, and you begin to see differently. The spiritual astigmatism clears up, and you literally begin to see with your heart.
Yeah, you're peeling the onion of all the illusion in a way. I mean, just to use words. I mean, it's beyond words, and yet we use them.
We have to use the word to talk about nothing.
Exactly.
To talk about what cannot be described.
Exactly. Actually, I've said at some point I was going to write a book becoming nothing.
Right.
But not even becoming nothing, because in a sense you're nothing and everything always, and you could always work yourself into a circle with using words.
Yeah, we appear and disappear, from the nothing into the somethingness.
So where do you see, I know that you live your life basically a breath and a day at a time, just in, next movement of harmony, the next movement, from love to love to love to love. And where that takes you doesn't matter. I mean, it's just love to love. But do you have any intention? That's the word I use. I have an intention to do a next season. This is the 103rd show. We have one more this season. I might have an intention to do the next show. Do you have an intention to set up ministries or Agape churches all over the world? Is that happening? How do you look at it?
Our intention has always been to be the example of the possibility of the highest in the human experience. We didn't want to just give lectures on truth. We wanted
or a franchise,
or it diminishes after a while. The idea was for us to, when people looked at us or heard about us, they can say, "Oh, it's possible for people to live together in harmony and peace with strong, loving ethics and business
and actually
service,
do stuff,
and actually do it,
right? Not be on top of a hill somewhere,
not in
a
the mountain, but in the city."
Right.
And so we plan on actually having, a self-sufficient spiritual community in the city. So, with our spiritual center, with businesses, with our record label, with our radio programs, with our bookstores, with our schools, all of the things that you would have, teaching people about finance, teaching people about health, teaching people about wholeness, all of that.
In the context of love.
In the context of love, in the context of being who you are, not separating those things out, but showing that they're all part of the wholeness. So our intention is to manifest that. So when people hear about Agape, or if they come through the door, they have an example of what it looks like, what love looks like on this planet. Just like when the first man broke the 4-minute mile. After that,
it just broke. Yeah,
people did
could do it. Yeah, they knew it was possible.
Right. So when people come to Agape, and they see Buddhists and Muslims and Christians and Jews and straight and gay and everyone worshiping together, working together. People see that. It's not just a theory. It's not just a philosophy. It's not just someone on a lecture circuit saying, "Wouldn't it be nice?" Something happens to the brain. Something happens to the awareness. Something is activated. and the person is changed forever. We want to be that example, or one of those examples, and then people go out from our school,
Right.
and
We're so hot that the lights are starting to flicker. I've never
we're glowing. This is all validation.
I know. It's like we're so on fire. We don't even need lights in here anymore. We'll see if we're on fire.
Right,
if the
right,
lights
right.
go absolutely out, and we'll see if we can be seen. That should be an interesting thing.
Absolutely. Or be heard.
Well, we probably will be heard, but we will be seen. That'll be interesting. So, in your own life, I mean, you're an example, or that's your intention to be an example that you want to meditate, you want to have that experience, you want to rub up against
Right.
that recognition over and over and over again. So the momentum is so much in your life that you don't think of yourself, except occasionally, let's say, or never, as anything but the infinite, as anything but God. In
Presence
essence,
of God.
right, I don't know if you saw the Bridging Heaven and Earth website, but on the open is a scene that says, we are all made of love, God is love, and we are God.
Yes.
And to me, that's
it.
that's it. Once you have that recognition.
Right. That's it.
That's
After a
it.
while, you develop the faculty of beholding. We're able to see that with your heart, and you have the realization of that, and you live from that realm. Your decisions are informed from that. It's called inspiration. So you're not necessarily trying to figure things out anymore. I'm content to wait until I get the message, until I'm inspired, till I hear it, rather than me trying to figure it out.
You don't use that tool anymore because there's a better tool.
Well,
The tool
the
of-
spirit uses it.
In essence,
Yeah.
but it's in control of the computer.
Right. We don't try to intellectualize the spirit. We spiritualize the intellect. It's the spirit that's running the show.
Would you say that your experience is you're moving in harmony, so that when something is, you know harmony well enough that when disharmony comes, and you're not moving so fast because you're in every moment, you're in breath.
discordant, yeah.
It feels it and you can
Yeah.
stop.
Yes.
And then take, like you
flow.
lift your foot and,
It's called, it's the flow. It's a flow of energy, and when you go against it, you know it.
yeah, if you know what it feels like to be in
Right.
harmony.
Right.
I mean, so you have to have, had enough of it.
That's when you come back to being the child, as you talked about earlier, because when you have that unabashed energy and enthusiasm, your imagination was not hampered, and you absolutely
It's
were
always the
aware.
first time. Right.
You're in flow, and then little by little you begin to get serious about life. Little by little you begin to be fearful about making mistakes. Little by little you begin to second guess yourself, until you're living life to not make mistakes rather than to live life. So when you come back in flow, you come back in harmony, you're here to live full out, without inhibition, absolutely in tune, knowing that you're guided, guarded, and directed by this spirit. And it begins to be more real to you than the chairs we're sitting on.
Right. The knowing is just internal. It's
right
not
there.
it's not even a thought anymore. You're just moving in harmony and love and bliss.
Yes. Bliss is a good word. I love the word bliss.
Yeah,
I love the
bliss is
word
good.
ecstasy. Some people are afraid of that. They don't want to lose control.
And it's also associated with physical content,
Right.
different things. I mean,
Right.
your mind associates
But
certain.
it's not. I call it
It's a life force.
quiet
in
fire,
motion. Yeah. Right.
like a laser.
We start out in fire.
Yeah,
fire.
it's a laser, because you can be in bliss and it doesn't even look like, you may not even be smiling,
Absolutely.
but it's just an absolute awareness of truth.
Yeah. Some people think if you're happy or in bliss, it's like you tie a rubber band
No,
around the side of your.
the plastic smile.
Right, the plastic.
No. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't really, and everybody looks the way they look.
Right. Exactly.
But there's an awareness of the truth, and it informs your thinking. I like this statement out of Proverbs that says, "Commit your works unto the Lord, and your thoughts shall be established." That when you're living for the presence, then God thinks through you. Your thoughts are established. You don't have to think things up.
There's no difference. I mean, you are that. Yeah. I mean, what else is there? And if the separate you is no longer there, then what's there?
It's a fiction.
Right.
And then the discord is called the friction of fictions. Fictional characters rubbing up against each other, and then they subside and the real comes out. It's wonderful.
That's very beautiful. And you at the church, I mean, there's a lot of singing and celebrating as
absolutely.
part of the.
Yeah. Singing is praying twice. You have the lyric and you have the melody, and it takes over your heart, and it literally heals you. So yeah, music has always been a part of my vision from the very beginning, that the music would not support the ministry. The music is a ministry of itself. And
it's a manifestation.
And it matches
yeah, exactly.
the word and the vibration and the frequency that comes out.
Well, when that harmony is there, whatever way the physical form manifests will be.
Right.
I mean, because we're gross, so we think it takes a song or a melody. But if you're sitting in that experience, then you're changing the whole universe just by sitting,
just by being still,
and having that experience.
And the dance and the movement is just an expression, the movement of that harmony. It's a visualization of the harmony. It's beautiful.
Very beautiful. So, this is a talk show.
That was a moment.
We had a moment. We took time for a gesture.
Yeah.
He could talk all night. Everybody who's watching the show knows I could talk all night, so now we know that.
Right. That's a moment right there, where eternity breaks into time. And,
it even stops you and I from talking, so it must have been strong.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, like my personality is really quiet.
No,
it's really contemplative.
Right.
And but when I'm speaking or teaching or getting going, it will absolutely exude through me. But
I've heard some of those audio tapes.
Oh yeah, no, it just takes me over. But left to my own devices, I'll facilitate a meditation retreat, be in silence for 3, 4, 5 days, or be by myself. I can go both ways very easy. Thousands of people doing a lot of words, or being absolutely by myself. There's no preference, but my personality was primarily contemplative, very quiet. And
it's interesting that you got to be on the pulpit talking to
I never was trying to do that.
I know. It doesn't matter.
I went reluctantly into that. It's like, you're coming. No.
It's not what I do. I don't do that.
Some of these loudmouths do that.
Right.
No, you're doing this.
Right.
And so I gave into it, and then it became more of an acquired taste to just be the vehicle for the word like that.
Yeah, I mean, I always say to people, I mean, whatever you've done before, we don't know. I mean, tomorrow, it's a new day.
Right.
So don't limit yourself in any way. I mean, tomorrow you might be on a 5-day retreat. You might be speaking to 5 million people. You don't know.
Yeah. The idea is
take it easy. Get out of the way.
Right. It's to think of us as Renaissance men and women. Everyone is multidimensional being. Everyone has infinite possibility and dynamic talent, and most of it's untapped. And because we try to fit ourselves in a box that society says we should fit ourselves into this box and do this job to make this money, to be anti-bored until we die, we don't flesh out the talents. But everyone here has a tremendous amount of gifts to express. And the idea is to live life, to be a co-creator with the presence of God, so those gifts come forward. Someone once said that, God gave us so many gifts, with that's so much that we cannot express them all, and that our gift to God is to develop as much of it in this particular life. And if we wake up with that kind of passion, how am I going to be more myself today? Not how am I going to get more, not how am I going to acquire more, but how am I going to be more myself? How am I going to express more myself? How am I going to be useful? If we wake up from that way of thinking, then we become in tune with the infinite, into that flow, that harmony, that rhythm, and we discover more and more and more of that energy is released. More and more life energy comes through us because we're asking the right question. When we ask, how am I going to get something?
We're an emptier vessel, in a sense. So more can be poured through and on.
It's
like the hole keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Absolutely. But when we ask the wrong question, how can I get more? We're saying to ourselves, one, we're separated from our good. It's not here, it's outside of ourselves. And we're forgetting that who by taking thought can add 1 cubit to their stature. You cannot improve yourself, you can't reinvent yourself, but you can discover who you are and express yourself. So when you ask, how can I be more myself? Now you're opening yourself up for that which is already there to flow through. And it comes through unprecedented ways, in ways beyond your imagination, untrained, beyond your experience, beyond your history. In an instant, an idea, a divine idea, which is sometimes what I refer to as heaven, the realm of divine ideas or ever-expanding good, takes you over and you discover dimensions of yourself that you didn't even know were there. And that again is the born-again awareness. You're constantly being born anew, from glory to greater glory, over and over again. So you're youthed, you're revitalized, you're re-energized, your immune system is strong, you have an immunity against the mental garbage of the world. The newspapers don't get you down, because as I like to say, you begin to see the newspapers as a prayer request from a sick society. Rather than reality, you see it as a prayer request. So when you are hanging out in that high vibration, you pick up the prayer request for the day, you read it, you hold the wonderful space, and you put it down. Whereas the sleepwalkers read the newspaper and call it reality. But that reality is just somebody's opinion that everybody has agreed upon and created an experience out of it. But when you're living life from the flow, you're not in that experience. You're in heaven now. As the title of your program, Bridging Heaven and Earth, you become the bridge, the vortex, to bring heaven to earth.
And even that, there's no separation.
Nothing.
There's just words we use
Right.
as metaphors and stuff. And, you know, when we talk, we use metaphors because we use them words.
Right.
Like it's a talk show. So, but in essence, there's no separation there either.
No.
I mean, we talk about it as like there are two places.
It's not.
There's only love.
It's just
Right.
that heaven appears right here, right now.
There's nothing to wait for. There's no place to go.
No.
You are that, and it is here.
Right. That's why sometimes I'll say that you're not here to anticipate. We're here to participate. We're here to participate in it. And if you're anticipating it, you're again placing it somewhere in the future or some other place. The idea is you wake up, I'm going to participate in heaven today. I'm going to participate in love today. I'm going to participate in compassion. I'm going to participate in joy, generosity of the heart, beauty. I'm going to shine. I'm going to radiate. I'm going to participate. That's now, right now. And if we stay now,
From now to now to now to now.
right now, then you're not worried about running out of energy. You're not worried about running out of anything.
There's no time and
Now.
space. In that sense, there's no time and space. When you're in the moment, which is the only place you're really alive and living,
That's right.
is just love, love, love. You know, I mean,
Glory to greater glory.
glory. Yeah.
It's magnificent. Yes.
All right. Well, I guess this has been an incredible show. I don't know.
What happened?
It's over.
It's over already?
It's real. No, it's 20 seconds from over, but basically it's over. So, you know, please, if you want any information about Agape, about Michael, about Lessia, call Allan. That's me, 805-687-2053. Good night. God bless you. You are that. Be in love.